Okay, welcome back to the Forensic Detailing channel. Don't forget to subscribe. So today we're going to talk about the subject of tyres and how you clean them and dress them. How to get the best out of your tyres. Now, first of all, how do you actually clean them? Well, I like to use an APC to clean a tyre, or a citrus cleaner maybe. And a good tyre brush. I do think the tyre brush is probably more important, and this Detail Factory one is really good actually. It's not too stiff, it's just right. It's like the old Mama Bear one, you know, it's just right. Scrubs the surface of the tyre nicely. So you pre-wash off your car first, and then you'll probably move on to the wheels, guys. So we'll just use an APC. We'll just spray this over. I don't know what's in here. Is it Surfex? I don't know what it is. But it's just an APC. Spray that all over the rubber. Because I'm working dry here without a bucket of water, normally you got your wheel bucket. I'll just spray some in here. And this bit is pretty simple. You're just going to scrub the surface of the tyre wall. And that's it. Okay. You can see it. You can just see from watching that footage how good a job this brush does. It's quite dense as well, so it gets in everywhere, and it gets in, you know, between all the little letters and stuff like that. Now there's two bits of dirt that you want to be aware of. One, if you've got brown film on your tyres, particularly if they're new, that is the anti-ozonant, which is part of the tyre composition, which is there to keep the rubber moist, as far as I know. So it's part of the tyre composition. So your aim is not to go chasing anti-ozonant and get as much of it out of the tyre as you can. So you really want to you're just cleaning off the surface. Okay. The second enemy of tyre cleaning is previous tyre dressings, particularly silicone solvent-based ones, or any really that are quite heavy. They can leave a film on the tyre that then loses its shine as it gets brake dust and dirt on the top of it. And then when you go to clean it, you can get this layer of black slime over the tyre that's quite difficult to remove. And if you like wipe the tyre and you haven't cleaned it properly, you can see that black slime sometimes smudging. So you don't want that either. So you want a clean rubber surface. So you're just going to scrub away at it till it's clean. You can never get that little bit under there too well. If you've got a manual car, you stick it in neutral, roll it all back after you've done on force. You're not rolling it 4 times. And you get the idea. You basically scrub the absolute knackers out of it. You're not going to damage the tyre. And you're getting that little rim under there as well, because that gets loads of dirt in it. Okay? And you can see that's quite a lot of horrible brown mess. So the next thing, after you've done that, is you're going to get your pressure washer. After pressure washer, I'm using a hose because I'm inside in the garage. I ain't going to be pressure washing in here. And you rinse off all of that rubbish. A bit more pressure will give you a bit more bite, won't it? Now, do you need to go again? On this tyre, I'm not going to need to. I don't actually think I've even dressed this tyre. It's already knackered. I'm going to have to replace it pretty soon. So what I would then do is get a relegated microfiber, and I'm using, this is a really good quality cloth, but it's been used with ceramic material, so it's now relegated. And I could use, it's ideal because it's not going to just pull loads of fluff out of the microfiber and onto the tyre if you had a relegated big thick fluffy one. You can see now when I wipe over the tyre, let's just get that in the rim first. When I wipe over this tyre, it goes bone dry. I'm not actually pulling off much dirt. It's interesting, isn't it? Okay. Now, if you've got little lines of slime, like I was saying earlier on, coming off the letters, you've got an old dressing on there, you probably want to go again and keep scrubbing it and then wiping it with a rag or relegated microfiber until your rubber's just like squeaky clean. You're not getting any dirt coming off on your finger, or minimal dirt. It's never going to be perfect. Once you're at that stage, you're then ready to dress your tyre. Now, tyre dressings. You have two main types, solvent-based and water-based. Now, just going back to the cleaning of tyres, you should really only use detergents, okay? You shouldn't be using solvents on your tyres, or alcohol solvent, really, any form of solvent. Why? Because it is going to break down the anti-ozonant, especially if it's a new tyre. It's going to flush more of it out. It's going to thin that anti-ozonant, and it's going to affect the tyre composition. Is it going to make that much difference? No, not really. If you do it, you'll be fine. But it's just a sort of one of those things that's a good method, method of working, a good idea to use what's right. And if you don't believe me on that, like I said before, ask a tyre manufacturer if you should clean your tyre with solvent, hydrocarbon or alcohol solvent. They'll tell you no, clean it with detergent. Okay, so that's the first thing. Next, when you dress your tyre, so you've got two main options: thicker solvent-based ones and watery ones. If you're using a solvent-based one that's thicker and slimy, you might want to glove up because it gets all over your fingers and all over the bottle. But you probably want to apply that with some sort of sponge because they don't brush well. If you're using a water-based tyre dressing that's thin and watery, you could use a hog's hair brush and spread it with a hog's hair brush because it's like spreading water. Funny that, John. Okay, so that's a few useful tips. Does it matter? Like, are water-based ones better and less safe than solvent-based ones? Well, you'd think in theory they would be because of what I've just said. But I think the people that make the solvent-based ones don't use like any strong hydrocarbons. There might just be a small amount of solvent in there to keep the silicone kind of loose and dissolved. And then if it is hydrocarbon, it's going to flash away and vaporise. But you might, on the same argument that I said about not using solvents, you might prefer for that reason, to use a water-based tyre dressing. What are the main differences between the two? The solvent-based silicone ones are typically like wet and shiny and glossy. They can be a bit too much for some people. They can patch up and grease up a bit in the summer. They're very good in the winter. But I think a solvent-based one with silicone in it tends to look a bit better for me. Not all of them. It's down to personal preference. The winner of my tyre dressing was that Auto Glim, that red one there, which is solvent-based. And the Geon one next to it, which I sometimes used, I think is a water-based sort of like SiO2 one. I think I prefer the Auto Glim, to be honest, but I'm not that fussed. So, that's it. Now, we talked about solvent-based ones. The water-based ones tend to be less like shiny and slimy. So they're more like giving you a darkened rubber look, which some people prefer. Depends on the tyre. If you've got a nice tyre that's all like this, which is really nice and clean and ready to go, it's okay. If you're working very quickly and you've cleaned it and it still looks rubbish, you slap a solvent-based one on there and it will mask it a lot better. So just depends on your level. Probably I'm all about the speed. When I wash my car, I just want to do the tyres quickly. So I'll do that, what I've just done, and just slap a tyre dressing on. So that's very quickly most of what you need to know about dressing tyres. Do tyres need protection? And do they benefit from protection from tyre dressings? In my opinion, well, because I haven't tested it or been able to test it, for me, and I haven't seen any independent testing that says that's all anecdotal to me. The other very important thing to discuss here is durability of tyre dressings. One of the golden rules about tyre dressing is that to get a freshly dressed tyre look, you have to freshly dress your tyre. So if you put one of these ones on that lasts 25 years, it still looks rubbish in 2 weeks' time and you want to dress it. So really, I think you want something that you can still see on there in 2 weeks, but I don't really believe in like putting these more detailing ones on that are supposed to last 6 months to a year or whatever, and they're going to have long-term benefit and all that. They may well last longer. There was an optimum one in my tyre dressing test, and on the test tyre, whatever it was in there, it goes blue initially and then it darkens off. That's probably the most durable. So for sure, there's something in there that lasts, but you're still going to need to dress it, and I think I said that in that video. So for me, something you can slap on that's forgiving and isn't ridiculously expensive will do. So over to the Geon one, sorry, the Auto Glim one, which you're going to use. So I've decanted this because it's just in a much better bottle than the stock Auto Glim bottle, which the lid tends to snap off and you get all gunk, you know, everywhere. And I've got some of these tyre dressing blocks here. I just keep them in a bag because they get slimed up. Probably the bigger the better, really. So let's go for the Big Bertha. Oh, you can't even see what I'm pointing at. We'll go for this big Geon one. And then, you know the rest. So if we put this down here and pan this out, where do we do that? How do we do that? There. Okay, a little bit up a bit. Look at that, what a shot. All I'm going to do, don't need to shake that, is just drizzle this over the into the foam. So there's a good amount on there. You know, you always hear less is more, but if you put too little on, you're trying to, it's like when you're painting the wall, you're trying to work the paint too much, so you want it to go on quite easy. Just do that, I'm just going to get some on there. The good thing about this applicator actually is you don't tend to get too much dressing going everywhere. Another thing that I haven't talked about is some tyres take a dressing better than others. Michelin tyres, for some reason, they don't take dressings all that well. I'm just going to get that into that little rim there. Up and down. You can blob some on your tyres if you want, so that you've got a bit of fresh dressing when you hit another bit. But I've managed to get that all the way over the tyre, and let's just get that in the edge again. And obviously there'll be a bit down here that's not as good. Can't be bothered to roll the car back though. Not right now, I can't. Now, what you can do is just leave that to dry off and it will even out a little bit. Another thing that's talked about with tyre dressings is sling. So if you put loads of, especially this silicone dressing in, and it all goes into the tread marks, you know, on the shoulders, and there's loads of excess of it, when you drive the car, it's going to flick off. So you either put it on, this Auto Glim one, put it on and you know, leave it overnight, or you can just give it a little wipe over with your dirty rag and just remove the excess. In fact, you can dull the finish right back down if you want to. You probably shouldn't do that. I'd want a little bit more on than that, but if you give it a wipe over. So we've got a bit of shine there. But yeah, I don't like doing that. You can leave the Auto Glim on a bit longer for it to dry out. I mean, that looks half decent. That would look good enough for me. But it just doesn't have that sort of like shine all the way around it, which is what you want. So I'll probably go back over that and put it back on again. That is everything you need to know about dressing a tyre. What do you prefer, water-based or solvent-based? Really is down to personal preference. Sometimes I like using the ones you can just spray on and leave. Anything really. I'm not that fussed about tyre dressings. Never have been. And that will do for me. Okay, over and out.